What's up, Misfits? We are here with Mr. Long Island Josh. You want to say hello?
What's up,
There
Misfits?
you go. And then you got also myself, Red, and we just watched Monday Night Raw of April 17th, 2017. And I like to ask you, how did you like this Raw?
This show came out of Columbus, Ohio. The fans were kind of active. I liked the show, but I felt that it wasn't worth my 3 hours.
I like the show. I didn't. This was a decent Raw. I didn't have no problem with it. There's other Raws that kind of drag along and everything, but I think this Raw was pretty decent. And I think the biggest point out of the whole night was Braun Strowman wanting more competition. He was supposed to leave, but I think that was the whole show of the whole highlight of the show was Braun Strowman basically.
Yeah, this show really built Braun the right way. I don't understand how he's a heel because the crowd cheers everything he does. Because even though he's a bad guy, he's showing physical feats of strength, and like, why would you boo this guy? But I'm really starting to like Braun. I have for a while, but I like that the show was built around Braun instead of Roman.
Well, I think the whole thing about him getting some positive feedback from the crowd is last week he took out Roman Reigns, and we already know how people feel about Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns is supposed to be the face, and he's supposed to be getting the heat that Braun Strowman's supposed to get, and then Braun Strowman's getting the cheers that Roman Reigns is supposed to get. But hey, we don't like Roman Reigns, so Braun Strowman did that to him, and everybody was saying thank you, Strowman. So
It's crazy how backwards these two characters are being booked.
but he came out and he's just basically saying that he wants more competition and whatnot. Kurt Angle came out. It's good to see Kurt Angle, but was that the only time that we saw Angle through the whole night?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was, and I actually like that about Kurt Angle. That I guess the first week he was there, he had a lot of backstage segments, and he proved he could still go with the comedy and he can interact with new talent. But this week he came out and just did what a general manager should. Last week, Braun beat up the number one guy, put him in a stretcher, beat him up again, tossed him off a loading dock to the floor, then put him in an ambulance and tipped over the ambulance. So when Braun opens the show and he's demanding he needs more competition, Kurt Angle, the Olympic hero, the GM, the legitimate guy, should be the one to come out, get in Braun's face. And Braun has backed down from a lot of people, and I haven't liked it. But this one I did like because I didn't want this to become a feud between Braun and Kurt. But Braun was disrespectful because he's a heel, and he's going against a babyface that's just beloved in Kurt Angle. And at least he backed down to Kurt. But that's because Braun, when he's mad, will continue to beat up people. And one of the things I liked about this show is that he kept finding people and beating them up.
Oh, he was going on a rampage. It was we were supposed to have the tag team match between who was it? R-Truth and Goldust against Gallows and Anderson. And before those two, before Goldust and R-Truth came out, because Braun Strowman just taking those two out. And who else did he take? It was Kalisto. And he says,
Yeah, later on they go backstage and he's just dragging Kalisto, and he's saying, because this is after he was kicked out and security's saying, you have to leave, you have to leave. So he's like, I'm going to leave, but I'm not leaving alone. And he's just dragging Kalisto with him, and they're not stopping him. Then eventually he gets near some garbage, and he said, like, something along the lines of, I threw out the trash last week with Roman, and you're trash too. So he threw out Kalisto.
it was kind of funny, but then he started walking off, and then all of a sudden Big Show came out of nowhere, just basically ran at him, shoved him against the garage doors, and then he fell down, and he's looking up and he's saying, well, you picking on somebody your own size. And this set up the main event for later on of the night, which I like the main event. It's two big men. I mean, you think two big men. They had a good match. What was it, a couple months ago? And
Yeah, I was going to say, I really liked the match they had several months or several weeks ago. But that's why, like, I was already excited for this to happen because I'm like, okay, they had a very interesting match the first time. So this one was better probably because you're not you're not expecting these guys to do holds and more traditional wrestling moves and even, drop kicks. It's crazy that these guys had such an active athletic match style.
Yeah, these guys went at it even before the bell rang, and these guys are two big men, and they're just going at it with each other. And it looked like two strong men in the middle of the ring. One trying to body slam the other, but he couldn't do it. The other one tried to do it, couldn't do it. So it's like, who's gonna do it to each other until Big Show finally power slammed or body slammed Braun Strowman in the middle of the ring.
Yeah, and if it wasn't for that first match, that's probably what I would have expected from these two. Just a slow, I'm gonna hit you, you hit me. I'm gonna try to pick you up. Up, you can't pick me up, but I'm gonna try to pick you up. And no, no, you can't pick me up. But they had some of that, but then they also would exchange moves. So when and it got fast, it's just this was such a good match, and it's the main event, and this kind of made Raw worth it to me, at least, I guess, at the end. That looking back, at least they built to it. And at the end, what they delivered is like, okay, because I was like, Braun can't lose here. But Big Show looks really strong in this match. So I wonder what's the ending's finally going to be.
Well, then they choke or Big Show finally choke slammed Braun Strowman in the middle of the ring, but he only got a 2 count. And then he tried going for a knockout punch, but Braun Strowman ducked that, and then did the big slam. And then Big Show kicked out of that. And then they were going for, or Braun Strowman was on the top rope, and Big Show was gonna do a superplex to him, and then he knocked him off. And then Big Show, no matter how big of a man you are, like Corey Graves says, that's gonna hurt because Big Show fell, you know, rope between legs, and that hurts. And then Braun Strowman leaps, but then Big Show nails him with a knockout punch, and then
Which looked great, I think.
yeah, it looked really good. But then Braun Strowman kicked out, and then both of them, climb up and it nails him. And this is what you're talking about. This was what was building up to the whole thing, and it was. I was expecting this way before, but I really wanted to see it. I don't know if they were really going to do it, but what do you think about this whole ending of what happened?
Well, these guys had teased that one of them was going to try to do a suplex or superplex from the middle or top rope throughout the match. So I thought they might do it, and maybe they would reenact the Lesnar Big Show spot that's so famous. And as the match went on and they were kicking out of each other's finishers, or Braun kept doing it, I'm like, I guess this is where they're going to go. And then when they finally set it up, I smiled so much, just that it's kind of silly, but it's also like, that's how you end this, with two guys that are supposed to be undefeated. And I smiled because it's a throwback to fans who watched SmackDown years ago when this happened. So I like it when they do callbacks like that.
Yeah, and everyone was talking about, like, I think Corey Graves was all like, I think it was Corey Graves who said it, or Booker T. They said the referee just fell right out, and that was the first thing I saw when the slam happened, and then the ring started like falling down. The first thing I saw was the referee just like fall right out of the ring, and
I like that. I like that because it made this spot different than the first time, and this one probably looks better because the referee bounces outside.
then Big Show's just left in the middle of the ring, and Braun Strowman just stands up, and Big Show's still down, and Braun Strowman's just basically the big man that lasted at the end. He's the last big man standing, which it was a good way to end the show, because you got people who are freaking out in the crowd. You got a holy shit chant going on. You got yes chants going on. You got Braun Strowman, who's just the last man standing. It was a good Raw for the main event, I think.
I think so too, but my issue here is now I think people like Braun more than Roman, and I don't want to see Braun get fed to Roman now.
Yeah, but I think that, well, I don't. See, this is the thing about it, is that what makes sense for me is that what makes sense for me is that have it's gonna be Braun Strowman and Roman Reigns at Payback, and I feel like the smart thing to do is make Braun Strowman win that match. That's the smart thing to do.
But I don't think that's what they're gonna do. But that then again, we are what 2 weeks away from that.
This is true. We're 2 weeks, 2 weeks away from that. But let me talk about a another match that I kind of enjoyed, and I like how all these personalities are coming together. T.J. Perkins, Jack Gallagher, also with Neville and Austin Aries.
Um, I have a little issue just that now that TJ Perkins is a heel, I feel like his Titantron and his theme need to change. It's too upbeaty, and if you're a casual fan and you don't realize that TJ Perkins turned, like you got to teach the audience by giving them audio clues. Like this is a bad guy, slow it down, make it more evil, like they did with Neville's theme when he turned. But maybe that's just because it just happened. But the match itself was really good, and that's exactly what I expect from these two, and it's what I expect from most of the cruiserweights. They have a very good roster nowadays. You're not going to get a bad match. It's just you got to be invested in the characters and care. And one spot I'm undecided if I like it or not is when Jack Gallagher gets to the top rope and takes out his umbrella and lands
Oh, that looked like it hurt. I don't care who
like
you are.
a seated whatever.
Yeah,
But yeah, like he brought it out, and it's a bit too campy for me. And then part of me is like, okay, that umbrella didn't turn inside out, so I wonder like, did they buy an expensive umbrella because they're like, okay, we have to have this visual.
but then these two they had a fun match, and it was a good match despite that part. And then um, Jack Gallagher is doing his attempt of a dab, and which was kind of awkward in that sense. But then T.J. Perkins um, throws his umbrella on the floor, and I think these guys had a good match. I think it's good to have a sense of Neville being the king of the cruiserweights, the cruiserweight champion. He kind of gets into the head of T.J. Perkins, and T.J. Perkins kind of is like, okay, well, he makes sense about what he says. Maybe I should just take some shortcuts and whatnot, and throw Austin Aries in the mix. Austin Aries, he lost his championship match against Neville at WrestleMania. So these two, I think it's good to have a feud like this to fuel the cruiserweight because or the cruiserweight division, because for a while there it was just like random cruiserweight matches on Raw. But now, like we talked about, they're finally getting a storyline built and everything for in the division.
Yeah, I like that. I guess Neville now has a sidekick. Do you think TJ Perkins will his gimmick evolve to be like the hand of the king? Because that was dropped a few times on commentary.
Pretty sure. I think these two would end up being somewhat of a mini stable with each other. So I'm interested in where T.J. Perkins will lie with not Austin Aries, with Neville.
Yeah, and I think this either way builds to Aries Neville again, and I hope Aries wins because it'd be bad for him if he lost twice in a row as challenging for the title.
But let's talk about the fatal four way between Sasha Banks, Mickey James, Alexa Bliss, and Nia Jax.
This match I liked, and I think it helps Raw's roster that they got Mickey James and definitely that they got Alexa Bliss. But it felt a little, fresh because I feel like Raw's just had the same four divas for a while now. And that'd be Bayley, Charlotte, Nia, and Sasha. So at least Mickey there and Alexa, it kind of changes it a bit, so that's good. But I don't want to see too many of them mixing right away. I don't like that they just jumped into the Fatal Four. I would have preferred a one-on-one match with someone or something like that. But I just don't want to see this happen over and over and over.
But they built this division around Sasha Banks, Charlotte, Bailey, and Becky Lynch at the time, and then they threw Nia Jax into it. And when it was just all Raw, it was Sasha Banks, Charlotte, Nia Jax, and and Bailey, and they just kept doing the same thing over and over every week. And I think for a couple of pay per views, they were doing that. So it's good to see them put Mickey James in the mix also. But this is the thing about it is going into this match, I was all for Alexa Bliss. I was been all for Alexa Bliss when she was on SmackDown. I've been all for Alexa Bliss when she was in NXT. And it's good to see this personality come in because you got stuff going on like Sasha Banks and Bailey. They're happy go lucky with their whole friendship and all. You give me a hug and all. Um, I got your back and whatnot. And you got people like Nia Jax that's like I'm gonna eat everybody. And then you got Charlotte who was also in the division. She says I'm the queen, but to have this personality of Alexa Bliss come in and the way she is with these women, she's all like she's got this attitude that it's kind of refreshing to see on this Raw Women's division.
But I think she wrestled differently. Her character, the entrances and stuff was still her SmackDown character where, she's only 5 feet, but she packs a mean punch. But then during the match, she's a coward and she's running away and stuff. And I didn't care for that. And, I think I'm going to try to pay attention more to see how they deal with her in ring, but she wasn't like that in SmackDown. She kicked ass and she won because she was good, and it just feels like on Raw right now, maybe Vince wasn't paying attention, and it seems like this character is just going to be like, oh, she's so small, she has to cheat, and she runs away, and she takes advantage, and that's how she's going to be on Raw.
Yeah, but then I don't know the whole character of Alexa Bliss is just it feels a lot better, and especially when at the end of the match when she scoops or when Nia Jax scoops Sasha Banks up on her shoulders. Was it Sasha Banks? Yeah, Sasha Banks, and
Yeah.
then Simone drops her. You know, I think if this was still the same way as it was a couple of weeks ago with the same people, I think that would have been it. I think Nia Jax would have won with that. But just to see a character like someone as small as Alexa Bliss come in and then get Nia Jax out and then steal the pin, it's good to see something like that happen. And
I honestly expected Nia Jax to win again. I didn't think they would rush to Bailey versus Alexa Bliss so fast. And I'm hoping Alexa wins because I think they screwed up Bailey's story. She won the title once, and her first time wasn't at Mania like it should have been. And it was under suspect circumstances. So even Stephanie, tainted the whole win. And I want to see Alexa run rough shot on Raw, just beating women. Hopefully not in the coward way, but just beating them 1, 2, 3.
all right, so quickly, let's go through the results real fast. Jericho Samoa Joe, just Samoa Joe won by Kakita Clutch. You like the match?
I did, and just because I know we're going fast, I really like the ending because I think wrestling should have more submissions, and that helps get Joe over. And Jericho, he's not hurt by that, and it makes Joe look legit. He made Jericho tap out, and there was fantastic sequences where Joe was trying to avoid the walls and Jericho tried to get it in, but I really enjoyed this match.
It was a good match, and then it steps up the match between uh, Seth Rollins and Samoa Joe at Payback. So that's a good thing to have Samoa Joe look like the destroyer that he's supposed to be. And then let's talk about Enzo Amore, Big Cass against Carl Anderson and Luke Gallows, which was an impromptu because, like we said, R-Truth and Goldust, they were out. You like this match?
Yeah, I thought it was fine. Nothing really wrong with it. I'm not necessarily over Enzo and Big Cass, but they don't really do anything for me, and the club doesn't do anything for me either. I was hoping that the club would go over to SmackDown, but there was nothing wrong with the match itself. I'm just a little tired of the Raw tag team division. I guess on the lower end, doesn't feel fresh. At the top, it does, but right now the lower end kind of just feels the same.
Well, it was good to have Dash Wilder and what's his name, the Revival, all into the Raw tag team division. But like they said, Dash Wilder's jaw was had a fracture because I think that at a live event they went against Hideo Itami and Shinsuke Nakamura and Japanese,
That strong style breaks jaws, so that's what happened to him. So that's unfortunate. So the Rival as a tag team is going to be on hold. I wonder what they're going to do with Scott Dawson. So wonder maybe they'll give him a singles run as a lower end heel. or maybe he'll just sit out until his tag partner's ready to come back.
Miz TV with Dean Ambrose as the guest.
This wasn't bad, but I guess looking at it later on, I'm like, oh, this is just SmackDown brought over. So there's nothing wrong with it because I like literally at the end when they exchange setting up each other's finishers. I'm like, okay, it's a solid little sequence there. But then I'm like, oh, I have seen this before on SmackDown, so it's just like, it just got moved over.
Yeah, it's just the same feud as it was, like you said, on SmackDown. Finn Balor, Kurt Hawkins.
I love how Kurt Hawkins justified that last week when Big Show beat him up. Big Show this week is in the main event. So Kurt Hawkins is actually a main event maker. So anyone who steps in the ring with him might, get closer to the top, but it's not really explained because you're probably going to beat Kurt Hawkins.
And then Elias Sampson is put on the list by Chris Jericho.
Yeah, because this is the second time he was just roaming around in the background, and I like Jericho, and I thought that Elias Sampson was going to attack Jericho, but I guess maybe they're building to that. Maybe that's how Jericho will leave this time around. He'll take a beating or maybe a guitar shot to the head.
And then lastly, Jeff Hardy versus Cesaro.
I still want the Broken Hardys, but having said that, I did like this match. Jeff, his style's wild. It hasn't changed. I watched him in TNA, but he's kind of old to just constantly be running around jumping off things. And even in his entrance, when he came towards the top of the rope, he seems like he's hurting.
Yeah,
and I wonder if it's maybe just because, maybe it's they worked a hard match over the weekend at a house show, a live event, or maybe it's just he can't do this style week after week. And we're entering, 2 or 3 weeks of it now, and they're probably still excited every time they go to a new city that hasn't seen him in a while, so they're probably putting a lot more effort in, but I think he's beating his body up.
Overall, this Raw, like you always ask me every podcast, was this worth your time? And I think you told me this at the beginning, but let's just clarify.
Yeah, I'm looking at it now, and it wasn't a bad show, but I felt like, again, 3 hours just too long. I'd rather Raw be 2 hours, but there wasn't anything bad with this. There wasn't anything skippable. In the past, what I try to do is figure out, a segment where I'm like, okay, I can kill 15 minutes. Let me go walk my dog. The past few weeks, that's becoming harder to do. So at least I think that's a little good for Raw, that I feel like if I take a break, I kind of miss something. But then again, a 90-minute version of Raw exists on Hulu, so there's clearly at least half of the stuff that does not matter because you can get a best of Raw tomorrow on Hulu.
This is true. So if you, all the misfits out there, if you like what you heard and if you like the podcast this week, we will be doing SmackDown as well, and then we will still be. Actually, we're gonna get more gaming videos up on the channel as well. So if you guys, we promise we'll get that one done also. But make sure you guys also tune in for more videos, and we also got other past podcasts that we also done. Also, if you guys want to check those out. But if you guys want to give this video a like, and also if you want to subscribe to hear some more, you feel free to do that. So also leave a comment because Josh loves comments. And,
I love comments.
Oh, he loves comments. So we'll catch you all the misfits next time.